In the past, it was a staple of kidnappings for the hostage to hold up a newspaper to prove that they're still alive. The problem with me is that I started to read the newspapers I was holding up, although I'm still, as you can judge by our social media overlords, in captivity. Nevertheless, I'll try my best to get what news I can out to you given the constraints. First up, stories on the domestic news front that I'm tracking. Your briefing begins with the headline: Mitch McConnell, longest-serving Senate leader in U.S. history, to step down from position in November. McConnell, who turned 82 last week and has suffered multiple public glitches, will step down from his Senate leadership position in November after maintaining power for almost 2 decades as the longest-serving Senate leader in U.S. history.
I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing you.
That's okay. What are your thoughts on running for re-election in 2026?
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
That's
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026?
yes.
All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute. Senator.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're on a path to finishing the NDA this week. It's been good bipartisan cooperation and a string of
Are you good? Mitch?
Okay, Mitch? Anything else you want to say, or should we just go back to your office? Do you want to say anything else to the press? Let's go back.
Go ahead, John.
I'll take it. Let's go back to you.
Go ahead, John.
Unfortunately, he hung on to power just long enough to exert an influence on the 2024 election, but his statement of resignation can be seen here.
But one of life's most underappreciated talents is to know when it's time to move on to life's next chapter. So I stand before you today, Mr. President, and my colleagues, to say this will be my last term as Republican leader of the Senate. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. However, I'll complete my job my colleagues have given me until we select a new leader in November and they take the helm next January.
With the balance of power between Republicans and Democrats pitched so evenly, who knows what this will portend going forward? One thing's for sure. My generation, Gen X, will never see the opportunity to be president. It'll go straight from the boomers to the millennials or zoomers. But enough of my gripes. Let's leave those aside as we move on into international news. Europe's version of Mitch McConnell, Norway's King Harald, who's the oldest monarch in Europe, is in Malaysia after falling ill on vacation. Harald, Europe's oldest monarch at age 87, became ill while he was on vacation. His son, Crown Prince Haakon, said in Norway that his father is doing better now. Now he needs some rest, so it looks like things are going better. In a brief statement, the royal household said the king's personal physician is in Langkawi and confirms that the king is improving from his infection. Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre said that we get worried when our king gets ill and is admitted to hospital, whether in Norway or abroad. And he should be worried. Who knows what's going to happen? With the recent deaths of Lord Rothschild and Henry Kissinger, who knows if there is some kind of plan to Mitch McConnell, King Harald, to shunt the older generation from power and initiate new disruptive plans. It has to be understood that the current system is under stress. There's a sort of everything bubble happening right now with $30 quadrillion of derivatives debt hanging over the heads of everybody in the world. And so the Western financial grid is kind of scrambling to make up for those losses losses and the possible popping of that everything bubble. And so a lot of people are wondering if their go-to is to essentially drain Europe, to drain the European middle class, to prop up the dying model. And so Norway is very famous for discovering oil in the North Sea, of course, and they started giving that money to their citizens, kind of like how we do in Alaska. You know, everybody who moves to Alaska gets a check from the government, like the oil revenue and everything. And so their citizens, get like a pension from, this oil exploration, this energy boon that they've had. And so they've created this massive sovereign wealth fund based on that. And it goes around the world and it buys into things. Just recently, it kind of dealt a blow to the ESG thing. They said that they wouldn't, invest in companies that, kind of put political ideology ahead of profits. And so they have massive power all around the world, like whatever corporations that this Norwegian sovereign wealth fund invests in, can benefit from that money. And if it's withheld, they can go down. The Norwegian Sovereign Health Fund is second only to some of the OPEC countries who have these shadowy sovereign wealth funds that they hide, and they don't really, tell you how much they have in them, but it's within the trillions of dollars. So who knows if NATO is looking at that money enviously and greedily. And, sometimes when an empire is in trouble, it's kind of like a person in the wilderness with frostbite. The frostbite starts at the extremities, in the body as it would in an empire. And then as things get more serious, it kind of rots from outside to within, until it hits the vital organs and the disease becomes fatal. So you will see the provinces of an empire fall first before the homeland goes down. So, if it's Europe now, it may be South America after that, portions of East Asia, and eventually it will be, England and the United States last. This is why political scientists like Alfred de Zayas are now referring to NATO and the Atlanticist grid as a criminal racketeering organization.
For, shall we say, the elites in the West, too little, too late. Because whether they like it or not, the world has changed enormously. We are no longer the unipolar world of Washington and Brussels. We are a multipolar world, and the global majority in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia, is not with the United States and with Brussels. Not anymore. I mean, the Indians, the Chinese, the Indonesians, don't forget the Indonesians with their 280 million human beings, the Brazilians, the Mexicans, the South Africans, they count, and they don't like the United States. And there is a certain solipsism in Washington and in academia in the United States that still lives from the illusion that we are number one and that everybody looks up to the United States. That's not the case anymore. People are not looking up to the United States. They're seeing the United States as a rogue state. And when I say a rogue state, I would go even further. United States and NATO are one and the same. NATO, I have published about that, can very easily bear the label of a criminal organization. Don't be shocked. I repeat it. NATO deserves the label, the characterization as a criminal organization for purposes of Articles 9 and 10 of the Statute of the International Military Tribunal for Nuremberg, that is the London Agreement of 8 August 1945, and also for purposes of the Nuremberg Judgment of 1946 that defined what was a criminal organization and found 3 German organizations to fit that definition. So NATO, why would it fall in this category? Obviously, when NATO was founded, back in 1949. I mean, NATO was a legitimate defense alliance.
The 21st century is shaping up to have some major changes, which you might find weird, but that leads us into our News of the Weird segment. A woman bit off more than she could chew when she went into a Subway sandwich shop and was charged $1,010 for a sandwich.
It's wrapped in gold and is from some other place. I would never pay $1,010 for a Subway sandwich.
It wasn't wrapped in gold, let's be clear, but it did cost her a lot of dough. And now, one expensive sub is keeping her Columbus mother from actually feeding her family.
She tells us it's a costly mistake that no one will help her clear up. And that's why she's coming to ABC6 for help. Jeremiah Wilcox on her side tonight.
I'm just trying to make ends meet at this point in time.
Letitia Bishop in a financial hole she never expected, strapped for cash, all thanks to an expensive order.
Stressed, overwhelmed. I couldn't get groceries at one point because my account was negative.
Back in January, Bishop says she stopped by this gas station on Winchester Pike to grab a few sandwiches from Subway. The receipt she showed us points out to 3 subs that were ordered. The total, more than $1,000 charged to her debit card. To put it into perspective, for $1,010, she could have gotten 101 of these 12-inch subs.
I talked to the Subway in person and just tried to see what was going on and see if they could instantly credit me back the money that they had actually charged me. But they told me I had to get a hold of Subway. There's no phone number that actually leads to a live person.
The story only gets more frustrating. She later went back to the shop and it was closed. She says she reached out to Subway corporate numerous times, but no luck. Her bank, not helpful either. But Leanne Lanigan with the Better Business Bureau says all hope is not lost.
Another route is she can use the resources we have here at the Better Business Bureau, our dispute resolution process. She could file a complaint with the Cromwell, Connecticut Better Business Bureau, where Subway is an accredited business, which means they've pledged to respond to any complaints brought to their attention.
Lanigan tells me what happened to Bishop is considered theft. She could even file a police report.
She could take that to her bank and she could say, here's my receipt, here's where you gave them $1,000. If you can't make this right for me, I'm willing to file a fraud affidavit.
We've reached out to Subway and the gas station owners on her behalf, on her side, working to get her money back.
Wow. In the past, when people feared getting mugged in a Subway, they had mass transit in mind. But the people running these fast food restaurants are the ones serving up a knuckle sandwich to the consumer. By the way, be very mindful. I saw somebody in the comment section of that video saying that they use the app of Subway. For all these fast food restaurants are not coming up with apps and saying that you could get a coupon if you order over the app before you even get into the store. And a lot of people are taking advantage of this. But he said he noticed $1,000 charge on his. So be very, very mindful. This is the death of customer service. This is the death of our being able to trust, these businesses, these franchises. And with that death, it leads us naturally into our obituary segment. Morose comedian Richard Lewis dies at age 76. Richard Lewis, an acclaimed comedian known for exploring his neuroses and frantic stream of consciousness diatribes while dressed in all black, leading to his nickname, the Prince of Pain, has died. He was 76. Lewis, who revealed he'd been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2023, died at his home in Los Angeles on Tuesday night after suffering a heart attack, according to his publicist, Jeff Abraham. A regular performer in clubs and on late-night TV for decades, Lewis also played Marty Gold, the romantic co-lead opposite Jamie Lee Curtis in the ABC series Anything But Love, and the reliably neurotic Prince John in Mel Brooks's Robin Hood Men in Tights. He reintroduced himself to a new generation opposite Larry David in HBO's Curb Your Enthusiasm, kvetching regularly. I was always a fan of Mr. Lewis and thought that he did great work, and, it's kind of sad to see him go, but it's also liberating because he was suffering with Parkinson's, and now he is free to kvetch on the other side. So wherever you are, Richard, we wish you well, and we thank you for all the laughs. And as for you, I'd like to thank you for watching the show, or as I like to call it, that suspicious gap in my resume. See you next time. Consider subscribing to my new podcast, Classic Paranormal. It's a clearinghouse for lost real-life accounts of true ghost stories. It's found on Apple Podcasts. Go there now if you're interested in enigmatic tales, chilling true accounts, chronicles from cases of the past that time has forgotten, but that the modern person who likes relaxing by a campfire swapping ghost stories might appreciate. As I said, the new podcast I'm launching is available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and there's a link in the description below on this video.